For the last week, I've been exclusively playing an early build of Endless Legend 2, and honestly, it's looking absolutely amazing, but it does need some tweaks here and there. So coming up, I'll be sharing with you my honest first impressions, including gameplay footage of the new factions, gameplay mechanics, and a whole lot more. A massive thank you to Amplitude Studio for sending over a key to test it out, and if you find this video helpful, consider hitting that like or subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow. But on with the video. So what is Endless Legend 2? Well, this is a turn-based 4X strategy game set in the Endless universe. And if you're a newcomer to the genre, the 4X stands for the following: explore, so you're like moving your units around and seeing what else is out there; expand, so you're growing your empire with new buildings and just extending your influence; exploit, so gathering and using resources as well as upgrading to get even more; and then extermination, which basically means getting rid of your enemy using any means necessary. Think of games like Civilization or Humankind, but with many twists and turns along the way in this epic fantasy world. And while it's not everyone's cup of tea, this one really kept my attention a lot longer than I'd care to admit. You're on this new planet now called Saida, but you can still find some old factions that will join you, so don't worry there. Also, like with their previous games, Endless Legend 2 thrives on asymmetry, which is just a fancy word to say that each faction handles so differently from the rest that it can often feel like playing a different game. Now, I have to admit, I'm a bit of a newbie in the Endless series myself, and even somewhat to the 4X genre as a whole. But even in this early stage, Endless Legend 2 is making a strong first impression. When you start, you'll have the option of choosing your faction as well as the enemy AI and some starting conditions. This version only allowed me to choose between the Kin of Sheridan and the Aspects. However, you can see in the AI that the Necrophages are in the game too. Also, up to 6 factions will be available on the game's release, with a mix of old and new faces. I played both factions here, and even though the Aspects are wicked cool, being new to the game, I found the Kin of Sheridan just a bit easier to play with. See, the Aspects are just this weird bunch. There are these coral creatures and they play very differently, but I'll get to all of that soon, don't worry. Okay, cool, so you choose a faction and now the game starts off with some epic cutscenes, this amazing soundtrack, and this all sets you up for the story that's about to unfold. Then from here you'll want to be setting up your first base, your settlement, your city. And now most 4X games will make you do this right in the beginning, but here you can actually just run around, gaining a bonus until you find the right place to settle down. So it's pretty cool. And also, I just gotta say this, guys, this game looks incredible. Even with it running on my i5 laptop, just zooming in, looking at all the little details from the waves to the units, man, the designers have gone all out here, and kudos to you guys. You'll see the resources shown in the hex grid layouts, but also you'll see that there's not much land to explore in the beginning. That's because in Endless Legend 2, it's all about that oceanic barrier. The devs wanted to keep you and your rivals separated in the beginning, so there's a lot of water at the start to help you get acquainted with your new land. So like I said, it's turn-based, so during your turns you can do a whole bunch of things, namely upgrading your cities, researching new technology thanks to this technology screen that depends on the number of years you've survived in the game, exploring your surroundings, doing quests here and there, or you might come across these minor factions that don't play a role in the grand scheme of things, and you can either battle them, maybe you want to bribe them so they don't kind of attack you again, or you can do a quest for them and then that kind of does the same thing, or like I said, just destroy their base and then no more minor factions. I decided to mainly play it safe, as the minor factions can wreck you if you don't really know what to do, like these unicorns or the hydrocorns, I think they're called. Yeah, be careful with those. But essentially, I was just trying to scope out my surroundings, find some curiosities, which are these sites that give you some useful resources, and this would also be around the time that I'd get some new side quests depending on what faction I chose. And these quests would range from, I don't know, defeating the nearby enemies, or maybe finding some kind of artifact. And once that was done, then I'd unlock maybe a new weapon for my hero character. And I really enjoyed upgrading this character. There was new abilities that I could try out that came in real handy during some of the battles. And so right now you might be thinking, all of this can look pretty overwhelming, especially to a newcomer to the 4X genre. But I must say the UI of this game is incredible. I didn't know half of what was going on most of the time, but the tooltips, and let me just add nested tooltips, are so useful in explaining what does what. You've got these notifications on the right so you never miss out on anything important. I mean, you even have a reminder section with a checklist just in case you miss something out. I actually asked a question to one of the devs during a presentation about how this game will be for players new to the Endless Legends series and to the 4X franchise, and it's clear that they've done a good job in making it beginner friendly overall. But it does get a little bit confusing when managing your city. Now, when it comes to your city, you'll want to be making it run like a finely tuned engine. I do kind of wish it could look a bit more like a city though. Like, I get it, you have to build certain buildings to get a boost in certain resources, but I feel like some tweaks can be made here and there. Maybe like making them look a bit more connected. Don't get me wrong, it does look really good, but it felt a bit like the Age of Empires buildings rather than a bustling town. I mean, you have these districts, right? You've got these farms that give you food, these merchants that give you more dust or the game's currency, labs that give you more science, forums that give you more influence, and so on. Now you also get to improve these districts later on in the game. And yes, you can have more than one city, and you can even assimilate minor factions to join you. Like I said, the factions play very differently though. Like when you play as the Aspects, the coral lovers, I could just place down these coral things outside of my city, and eventually those would expand and I can choose to turn that into a city if I wanted, but that coral just keeps going. It's crazy. I mean, you can even just run over it. Eventually my city was getting bigger and bigger, and with some upgrades it was looking very cool. Overall, I think they did a great job keeping each faction's city looking very distinct. But let's look at the Tidefall mechanic now. So Tidefall is what changes this game up from the original. The original had those seasons, and the devs mentioned how people weren't the biggest fan of them. Like, they didn't really have any lasting consequences, and they could often be quite punishing. So now they wanted to do something a little bit different. With Tidefall, I think it only occurs 3 times in the game. The first one occurs relatively early. First you have this monsoon, it's rainy and dark, and it's really hard to move, and the battles are more intense. It comes with more rewards, like these curiosities are dropped around you to help you and sometimes your enemy. But then the water starts to recede and more land is exposed, and that's permanent. It's not going to come back again. It's pretty crazy, as now your strategy will change depending on what new resources you find or what enemies are now accessible. The following monsoon and Tidefall will then happen a lot later, and the next one a lot later after that. But to me, it's a really cool feature, and I think many will prefer this over the original. But what do you think so far? Let me know in the comment section below. And now I haven't really touched on the battles yet, so let's jump into that. Now, for me, I'm a turn-based battles kind of guy. I enjoy the macro management, but to be honest, I love seeing my attacks up close. And this time around, you don't attack at the same time, so it's got that XCOM turn-based feel to it, which, yeah, I'm all for. And to be honest, this might just be the best part in the game for me. You have your starting positions, and then off you go. There's so much more complexity and nuances in these type of battle structures. I mean, you can go under trees, for example, which gives you a defense bonus. Even your formations play a big role, and like I said, what faction you have, that also plays a big role. Your hero character also has special abilities that you can add to as you play, and yeah, you can still auto-resolve it if battles aren't your thing, but I love them. And seeing these battle animations in that, you can tell that they've put a lot more work into them, and just seeing them go at it, some of the battles were pretty challenging, but I did love coming up with my own strategies and just seeing what worked and what didn't. Eventually I got the hang of it, and I realized that the factions really do play differently. While playing with the Kin of Sheridan, like I said, you get to build these units called the Chosen, which are basically just these dank giants that are just so tanky. and they were just really awesome to see on the battlefield. The kin, I'd say, are more defensive, more turtle-like, and I mean, you get to fortify your city. Even in battles, keeping your troops close together, they just get like a defense boost with them. The aspects, the other faction I played with, yeah, they really love the coral and the diplomacy. That coral will give you special bonuses, and it'll also spread organically across the map, and it really loves water. And if you play with other aspect players, you get to engage with the coral and see what they see. It's all very connected and very interesting. And then when it comes to their stories and perspectives, each faction is also very different. Most 4X games are quite sandboxy, but yeah, Amplitude wanted a strong focus on story while you're playing, and I must say it was very cool throughout. Sometimes though, I wasn't sure if I was going in the right direction, but it was cool seeing how your changes would impact the story going forward. Alright, now for some things that you really wanted to know. The pricing, the release date, and the platforms beyond PC. Well, sad news I'm afraid, as that's all still very hush-hush, and while chatting to the devs, they mentioned that they didn't want to discuss any of that just yet. But what about multiplayer? Well, yes, definitely, absolutely. And more good news is that the game's director is Derek Paxton, who you might know as the person behind the fantasy mod for Civ 4 called Fall from Heaven, as well as his work in Civ 4 and Civ 5. He was also the lead producer on Galactic Civilization 3 and 4. The list just goes on, and hearing him just talk about the game just really got me hyped. I mean, there's just tons of passion coming from him as well as from the rest of the team. But what about mod support? Well, again, the devs couldn't really say too much about that. It sounds like they just want to release a fully functioning game, which I'm 100% on board for. And of course, the soundtrack is a chef's kiss. People always went on about how good these soundtracks are in the Endless games, but playing this game for a few hours really made me appreciate that. It's got the same composer as last time, so everything from the intros to the battle sequences are just filled with all these epic songs that kept me hooked throughout the game. To me, this game has been captivating, interesting, and looking very promising so far. It might just be one of the best strategy games out this year. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And then lastly, I just want to say a big thank you to my members. They really help keep my channel going. But yeah, other than that, it's Marco here from Easily Distracted Games. And as always, don't stop gaming.